Hey everyone, welcome back to History Historica Nexus. Today, we're diving into a transformative period in American history, the era of American expansion after 1877. This was a time when the United States grew not just in size, but also in economic might, political influence, and global reach. So, let's explore the key moments and figures that defined this era. If you enjoy learning about history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. When we talk about American expansion after 1877, we're referring to a period marked by rapid industrialization, territorial acquisitions, and the emergence of the US as a global power. After the Civil War and the end of Reconstruction in 1877, America was poised to expand its borders and influence in unprecedented ways. Let's break this down into three main areas: territorial expansion, economic growth, and the rise of American imperialism. First, let's talk about territorial expansion. The late 19th century was a period of intense westward expansion. The concept of manifest destiny, the belief that the United States was destined to expand across the continent, had taken root earlier in the century. After 1877, this idea continued to drive U.S. policy. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869 had already opened up vast stretches of land for settlement, but it was the Homestead Act of 1862 that provided the legal framework for expansion. The Homestead Act allowed American citizens to claim 160 acres of public land for a small fee, provided they improved the land by building a dwelling and cultivating crops. By 1900, millions of acres had been settled under this act, significantly expanding the country's frontier. The discovery of gold and silver also played a critical role in drawing settlers westward. Cities like Denver, San Francisco, and Seattle experienced rapid growth due to these gold rushes. But this expansion came at a cost, particularly to Native American populations. The U.S. government signed numerous treaties with native tribes, which were often broken or renegotiated under pressure. The Indian Wars, which took place throughout the late 19th century, were a series of conflicts that culminated in events like the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876 and the Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890. These confrontations effectively marked the end of large-scale Native American resistance in the West. In 1887, the Dawes Act was passed to promote the assimilation of Native Americans by dividing tribal lands into individual plots. The goal was to encourage Native Americans to adopt farming and integrate into American society, but the result was a significant loss of tribal land and cultural erosion. Now, let's shift to the economic transformation of the United States during this period. After 1877, America experienced rapid industrial growth, known as the Second Industrial Revolution. Key developments included the expansion of the railroad network, the rise of steel and oil industries, and the growth of urban centers. Figures like Andrew Carnegie in steel, John D. Rockefeller in oil, and J.P. Morgan in finance became symbols of this new era of American capitalism. Their business practices, often described as robber baron tactics, involved aggressive strategies to eliminate competition and create monopolies. This led to significant economic growth but also to stark inequalities and poor working conditions. The rise of industry also led to the growth of the labor movement. Workers in factories and mines often faced long hours, low pay, and dangerous conditions. This sparked the formation of labor unions like the American Federation of Labor, AFL, in 1886, which organized strikes and protests to demand better wages and working conditions. Major strikes like the Haymarket Affair in 1886, the Homestead Strike in 1892, and the Pullman Strike in 1894 highlighted the tensions between labor and capital. Meanwhile, technological advancements like the telephone, invented by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876, and Thomas Edison's electric light bulb in 1879 revolutionized communication and everyday life. These inventions fueled further economic growth and led to the rise of new industries. By the late 19th century, the United States began to look beyond its continental borders. The idea of American imperialism emerged, driven by a combination of economic interests, strategic considerations, and a sense of cultural superiority. One of the first major steps in this direction was the purchase of Alaska from Russia in 1867, which was initially mocked as Seward's folly, but later proved to be a valuable acquisition due to its natural resources. However, it was in the 1890s that American imperialism truly took off. The Spanish-American War of 1898 was a turning point. Sparked by the explosion of the USS Maine in Havana Harbor, the war was driven by a mix of sensationalist journalism, known as yellow journalism, and a desire to support Cuban independence from Spain. The U.S. victory in this war marked the country's emergence as a global power. As a result of the war, the United States acquired several territories. The annexation of these territories marked a new era of American expansionism. The Philippines, in particular, became a contentious issue, as it led to the Philippine-American War from 1899 to 1902, a brutal conflict that resulted in significant loss of life and highlighted the complexities and contradictions of American imperialism. The annexation of Hawaii in 1898 and the construction of the Panama Canal, completed in 1914, further demonstrated America's growing influence in the Pacific and the Caribbean. The Panama Canal, in particular, was a remarkable engineering feat that significantly shortened the sea route between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, bolstering U.S. military and commercial power. President Theodore Roosevelt was a key figure during this period. His big stick diplomacy emphasized the use of American power to achieve foreign policy goals, while his role in negotiating the end of the Russo-Japanese War earned him the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906. Let's not forget the cultural and social aspects of American expansion. This period saw a massive influx of immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe, Asia, and other parts of the world. Between 1880 and 1920, over 23 million immigrants came to the United States, seeking economic opportunities and fleeing persecution. Cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco became melting pots of different cultures. This era also witnessed the rise of social reform movements. The Progressive era, roughly from the 1890s to the 1920s, was characterized by efforts to address the social and political inequalities brought about by industrialization and urbanization. Reforms targeted issues such as child labor, women's suffrage, education, and public health. Women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton led the charge for women's rights, culminating in the passage of the 19th Amendment in 1920, granting women the right to vote. Meanwhile, African Americans faced the rise of Jim Crow laws in the South, leading to increased segregation and disenfranchisement. Leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington emerged with different strategies to combat racial injustice. So, what can we learn from this era of American expansion after 1877? It was a time of incredible growth and change, territorially, economically, and socially. The United States transformed from a nation recovering from civil war into a burgeoning global power. But this expansion also came with significant consequences, including the displacement of Native Americans, the rise of monopolies and labor unrest, and the complexities of imperialism and cultural assimilation. As we reflect on this period, it's essential to recognize both the achievements and the challenges that defined the United States in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These historical lessons continue to shape America's trajectory today. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Leave a comment below on what topic you'd like us to cover next. Until next time, keep exploring the past to understand the present.